The truth is, they took the book of Thomas out the Bible.
Hey sis, I don't mean to interrupt, but before we get started, it really needs to be said that the Gospel of Thomas was not taken out of the Bible. To be taken out of the Bible indirectly implies that it was once in the Bible, and it is an empirical fact that it was never included in the canon of Scripture. So, the word canon refers to a reed or a measuring rod. In the past, reeds were used as measuring sticks, so in biblical language, a canon refers to a standard to which biblical writings must conform. A canonized book indicates that it has met the standard to be used for faith and practice. So contrary to popular belief, the early church did not choose which books were inspired to be included in the canon of Scripture. They recognized which books bore the marks of divine inspiration. The New Testament canon of 27 books that we have today was formally recognized at the Council of Carthage, which is in Africa, in 419 AD. These books included four standards. Number one, it had to be authored or sponsored by an apostle, someone who was directly chosen by Jesus. Number two, it had to claim to be inspired or revelatory in nature. Number three, it had to have the universal acceptance of the church. And number four, it had to have the marks of divine inspiration. No mistakes, consistency with other inspired texts, etc. So, did the Gospel of Thomas meet these standards? Well, the consensus among scholarship is that the book dates to the middle of the 2nd century, long after the apostles had died out. So it's safe to conclude that Jesus' disciple Thomas did not write this book. Thomas also reflects a type of Gnosticism that wasn't prevalent until the middle of the 2nd century. It also demonstrates a deep dependence on large parts of the New Testament. Thomas quotes or alludes to all four Gospels, Acts, and most of Paul's letters and Revelation, meaning it was written well after these works. That's strike one. Did Thomas's gospel have divine qualities and align with other inspired books? Absolutely not. The Gospel of Thomas teaches Gnosticism. In fact, it was one of several Gnostic texts that were discovered in 1945 by some farmers in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. Gnosticism is also polytheistic. It teaches that the God who created the world was evil, and by extension, his entire creation was evil too. So salvation then was the liberation of the soul from the physical realm into a spiritual realm. One can achieve this salvation only through a secret knowledge, or gnosis in Greek. According to Gnostics, this secret knowledge came from Jesus, which is why you believe,
Because Jesus tells you that once your thought and your emotion becomes one, that whenever you say mountain move, the mountain will move. And the reason why they don't want you to know that is basically because you're going to become God.
So yeah, the whole secret knowledge thing does not come from Jesus. It comes from Gnosticism. In fact, the beginning of the Gospel of Thomas says, open quote, "These are the secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke," close quote. So no claim of divine inspiration and secret knowledge deriving from Gnosticism is definitely not consistent with the rest of the inspired scripture. So strike number 2 and number 3 for Thomas. Furthermore, this whole line of "you're going to become God or become like God," didn't we hear this before somewhere in the Bible, like in the Garden of Eden? And finally, the early church never includes Thomas in any of its early canonical lists. In all the lists, we have 4 and only 4 Gospels. Matter of fact, the church specifically rejected Thomas as being heretical. It was so far out in left field that it wasn't even up for discussion. Eusebius, for example, includes the Gospel of Thomas in the heretical books section and suggests that it ought not to even be reckoned among the spurious books, but discarded and impious and absurd. So, that's strike number 4. Thomas doesn't report any major parts of Jesus' life, his birth, his death, or even the resurrection. I'm going to be honest, sis. I don't think that you've really read the book of Thomas, because as a woman, would you even want Thomas to be included, since the writer believes that women are inferior? The final verse, number 114, at the end of Thomas states, and I quote, "Simon Peter said to him, 'Let Mary leave us, for women are not worthy of life.' Jesus said, 'Look, I will guide her,'" talking about Mary, "'to make her male, so that she too may become a living spirit resembling you males. For every female who makes herself a male will enter the kingdom of heaven." Close quote. For the sake of brevity, I'll end here, and I'll discuss the rest of your claims in part 2.